This is Intelligence Storm by globalintelhub.com. It's December 10th, 2024, and it's been a busy week. So the thesis of this is, are all of these news stories somehow connected? Is this evidence of a major global, if you want, coup d'etat by the White Hats? Are all of these things somehow connected? Since Trump was elected, he's not going to become president since until January 20th, but since he was elected, a lot of interesting things have happened. And I'm just going to add one here. I opened a bunch of tabs. Let's start just from one till the other. So we were promised justice, and maybe what it says in the Bible about tribulation and maybe justice and maybe karma payback, maybe it is all happening now. It just doesn't look like what we thought it might look like as it's portrayed in the movies, or as we've had dreams of something really dramatic or something just supernatural. Maybe it's not so interesting or like as seen on TV kind of thing. Maybe this is what the trials and tribulations really are. Maybe we're all dealing with our own inner things until we go into this kind of golden time. There was huge political unrest in South Korea, so we're not really sure what's going on. There's martial law, there's protests. It seems like they're trying to have a coup, and I'm not sure really what's going on, and I haven't looked too deeply into it, but it's whatever it is, it's pretty significant. Meanwhile, the government of Syria was taken over by a bunch of terrorists. Now, what's interesting about this is Syria is a proxy country like Iraq, where Russia backed Bashar al-Assad, and he's actually now in Moscow. This is a good article on Zero Hedge, which I've posted on our groups, and I should put it on our website. It's called Syria Has Fallen, Who Are the Winners, Who Are the Losers, What's Next for the Middle East, which is basically just a kind of vanilla analysis of the different players involved. The U.S. obviously has been involved in Syria, mostly covertly, but Syria is kind of torn between all sides. Turkey is involved, Israel is involved as a defendant or an opponent. Russia has been supporting the Assad regime, and the U.S. has been secretly supporting the terrorists. It's not clear if this is CIA-backed. I would say that this is one thing that we're not really sure if this is like a white hat operation, or if this is the deep state's last stand and they want to do some damage before they lose power completely. But anyway, the point is, South Korea, Syria, there's a lot of political unrest. What's next? Who's next? Canada, the United Kingdom, who else? Then you've got these public figures getting sued for really bad things. So Jay-Z is now accused of raping a 13-year-old girl. Jay-Z says that that's not true. We all know that Jay-Z is a big deep stater. He's Illuminati. He has tattoos of the Illuminati. He raps about it. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. These guys are involved in lots of bad things. It goes to the Satan, the cabal, satanic cult, whatever you want to call it, and it involves satanic ritual abuse, human trafficking, missing kids, and I want to say that it's mostly not about sex. Sex is the kind of, I don't know what you call it, it's what everyone is kind of focused on, but there's really a much darker and deeper side to this. I mean, obviously that it's bad, that part of it, and it's something that is easily kind of discussed because it's something that is common in society. What's not common is the satanic ritual abuse and the kids. I mean, millions of kids go missing every year. So where do they go? Physically, where do they go? I mean, there's no dead bodies. They're just gone. Some witnesses have reported seeing kids in cages in underground installations, and that they're basically, some of them are sold into slavery. And they could be working in a sweatshop, they could be chopped up and used in medical experiments, they could be eaten, all kinds of bad things. And so these lawsuits are opening up a can of worms, and the celebrities are really freaking out. And I would argue that that's why several of these celebrities have left the United States. So then there are these earthquakes happening in Nevada, and there was one in California, and it's very unusual how they're happening very in rapid succession of each other, but not on the same fault line. Like a fault, usually when a fault ruptures, it's usually around that area. I lived in Los Angeles, and I was actually in Loma Prieta in 1989 in San Francisco, and been through tons of earthquakes in Los Angeles, and I love California. It's I was born in Orange, California, so it's part of my soul. But these earthquakes are unusual, and especially the ones in Nevada. Nevada, especially this Yarrington area, is not a high earthquake area. It's not like Los Angeles. It's not on the San Andreas Fault. I mean, there are faults there, but what Gene Decode says is that many of these earthquakes, certainly not all of them, but some of them, are connected to operations against the DUMBs. The deep underground military bases are being cleared out by the White Hats, and certainly we need to be on the lookout for unusual earthquake activity as a sign that's going on. And of course, the other thing is tectonic weapons. The military does have, and probably foreign militaries also have, earthquake weapons that could be used against bunkers or just to create chaos in cities. There was an earthquake in Turkey just after Turkey did some political action against the globalists. There's always this tit-for-tat warfare, asymmetric warfare. So then you've got, this is just, I really don't understand what's going on with these black eyes, but you've got these celebrities that are getting beaten up or falling downstairs. I don't know, it was with Mitch Romney, and now Jay Leno, and now Chevy Chase, and they're joking about how they both have black eyes and they're getting beat up, and it's very weird. But what you can say that's interesting about this, the people with the black eyes are the kind of bad guys. Have they been had their adrenochrome taken away? That's what some are saying. Whatever's the case, I can't imagine that someone is just beating them, but they all happen to be bad guys, so that's just an interesting observation. Then you've got the pardons. So Biden is pardoning his son, Hunter Biden, no surprise there. But what's interesting is he's now talking about pardoning Fauci, Schiff, and Cheney. So why would Biden pardon Adam Schiff and Liz Cheney? The answer would be things that are not yet uncovered. So perhaps Adam Schiff was involved in some bad things that haven't come to light yet. We did an article 4 or 5 years ago about some of his partners that were involved in really just bizarre crimes involving a chainsaw and meth, and there were dead bodies and homeless people involved, and really, really weird stuff. So Adam Schiff definitely is part of the cult, if not a cult leader, and very strange energy coming from all these people. So that's super interesting. Why would they do that, and why now? And what they did for Hunter Biden is they pardoned him from 2014 onwards. 2014 was when the action in Ukraine started, and this is really a lot bigger than the crimes that Hunter committed, the sex acts and the crack smoking. This could involve espionage, national security. There's rumors of biolabs in Ukraine. Ukraine was a U.S. operation. The CIA supported the overthrow of a legitimate government in the Orange Revolution, and then later in other color revolutions, and it was financed by Soros money, and the Rothschilds bought the debt. That's public fact. You can look at that. The Rothschilds bought the Ukraine debt in the year after, and so the deep state invested a lot in Ukraine. That was like their kind of last big mission, and so being pardoned from 2014 onwards would indicate that they're being pardoned for those things that were going on during that time. And whether whether one thing or another thing is true, it doesn't really matter, actually. There were some bad things that were really bad that are just incomprehensible to most people. So pardoning Hunter during that period would indicate that the hammer of justice is coming, like Elon says. So let's move on to that. Elon reposted something that I've been saying for a long time, that there's a proposed 20 trillion tunnel from New York to London that would take 54 minutes. And many of us know, and Gene Decode has said this and many others, that there are underground tunnels that the military has built and used, but there are also ancient tunnels that have been discovered and retrofitted and used. And the purpose of many of these Musk companies, one theory says, is that it's not so much about building things, it's about white-worlding. So, for example, Musk is now reposting this, saying Boring Company could do it for 1,000 times less money. And that's true, of course, and Boring Company has amazing technology, so this is not to say anything negative about Boring Company, but more that it seems like there is a disclosure that's on, because many of us know about the tunnels, and many of us have spoken to people who have been in these tunnels physically, and we're talking about a very small group of people. The military, the elites, just a very small group of people have access to this stuff, but they're real, and there's a lot of evidence, not only people like Phil Schneider, but there's a lot of construction evidence. There's, for example, the boring tools that are used by the boring companies. Some of them are operated by Bechtel Construction Company, and there are other companies that are specific to drilling tunnels and digging tunnels that use these advanced machines that have lasers or some kind of technology that vitrifies the rock as it's going through. So it's not cutting it in a traditional sense, it's basically melting it, and what happens after you melt the rock, the walls of the tunnel become like glass. It becomes like a polished marble. And so you can put air inside or some gas or something, and that can create kind of a suction. So we only have bits and pieces of how the technology works, but it's not so far advanced. I mean, it's not like time travel. It's something that we can kind of wrap our heads around. And Boring Company has done some of these tunnels. They've built transportation tunnels with these super fast sleds. And so it's only a question of time before Boring Company just organically would grow out that business. So the fact that Musk is reposting this is, I think, significant. And also the free energy device on his desk. And I mean, look at this, what's happening. This fire in the sky, this is crazy. And then, of course, we've got the UFOs happening all over. So, I mean, look at some of these. In New Jersey, what is that? And then it lights up. That's crazy. Here's another one. That's just unbelievable. And just go on Twitter, on X, and type UFOs, and you're going to see all these images. What's amazing about this, what's happening in the last 2 weeks, is it's not a single sighting. It's thousands of sightings. I mean, only a small percentage of these things are being reported. You've got sightings in other countries. You've got UFOs, they're calling drones, just all over the world. And it's just overwhelming. A lot of them are being seen near nuclear sites and military bases. That's pretty crazy. I'm going to repost all of these. It's really a phenomenon. So, yeah, birds. So, are all of these things, what's going on, connected to white hat operations and a transfer of power and an elimination of the deep state? I don't have any conclusions, but it's strange that since Trump is elected, all of these things are happening. The UFOs, Syria fell, this United Healthcare CEO is shot, and I don't necessarily know how it's all connecting the dots, or what it all means. But it does seem like a lot of these things are happening, and it seems like the victims are deep staters, like bad guys, like this insurance CEO. I mean, violence is certainly not a solution, and nobody who supports a free and open society would ever advocate for shooting people. And I think a lot of what happened in the last 5 years, there was a plan that they were going to do this thing with the EBS, and there'd be justice kind of publicly where everyone could see what's going on. And this is the word on the street, I don't know that this is 100% true, that was downgraded in favor of another plan where there would be justice, but it wouldn't be kind of violent, and it would be more soft, and people would just leave their positions of power rather than being hung or had their heads chopped off with the guillotine, as happened in previous revolutions. So we're not making any conclusions, we're just saying it's unusual that all these things are happening. So I would say that there is some evidence of some white hat operations going on, and it's not easy to pinpoint. I mean, it's easy to pinpoint what the bad guys do. A building blows up, people die. That's obviously bad. It's not easy to pinpoint what the good guys do, because it can be very subtle. It can be just little things. Like, for example, Trump, if you look at the bullet that hit his head, you can say it's a miracle. I believe in miracles. But what if it was some technology? In other words, the chances of that happening, let's put it like this. It's not a coincidence. He didn't just accidentally turn his head and risk and avoid death. I mean, the bullet just whizzed by his head. So the point is that good actions that are bringing forth this positive change and positive society are not always so obvious. So that's really the point here, is that the white hats work in a more subtle and a more cautious way, because they don't want people to die. It's like what happened during some of the actions in the Russia-Ukraine war. There were do not kill directives for the Russian army, and the Russians were very careful to even use their weapons, because they had do not kill instructions, that they were only to kill military, not civilians. And that was very tricky, because the Ukrainians were just putting kids on the front lines, and you didn't know who was who. So, and I think that that's what the white hats do. The white hats aren't just going and just killing deep staters, and that's why I'm cautious to say that, like the healthcare CEO. I mean, that's not. We don't know the details of all these things. We're just saying that there is evidence, if you connect all the dots, of a white hat operation, which is positive, and it looks like we're going to have a very bright future. So this is exciting. It's a golden time. We're going to see some of this technology. We're going to have an overflow of information, and it should be happy times, the golden age. This is Intelligence Storm by Global Intel Hub. Please visit globalintelhub.com and share it with your friends, as our website is blacklisted by Google, YouTube, and by spam filters, so we can't even email these articles to anybody because it gets caught up in spam filters. So we appreciate sharing this intelligence, and Zero Hedge is a huge source for us, and Exopolitics by Dr. Michael Salla. Those are really we only really have a couple sources. Other than that, it's just research, it's digging. So we look forward to seeing you in the next update, and we wish you all the best, really, sincerely. Meditate, be well, have a good diet. It's going to be a great time. We need to be healthy mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thank you.